Hello, cousins. Welcome to S.A.S Mass, our spirituality and support symposium. Think morning witchy chats around a warm campfire. The recording has started, and so participating in S.A.S, you agree to read and accept the terms of engagement, which I'll post in the chat. We ask that you mute during the recording for clarity during the meeting and for the afterplay. Use the raised hand reaction in S.A.S if you want to weigh in or add to the conversation. I'm sorry. If you want to share, and if you want to weigh in, then type weigh in the chat while your hand is raised. We do try to do a handoff to keep the flow going. When you have wrapped up your thoughts, you can call on the next person, and the moderator, which is me today, Ocean, has your back, and I can totally help you out. And we'll start with a few announcements before we get started with our chat. I don't know who's doing announcements, but they can go now.
I can do some. My nose is running, so let's do it. It's because I'm eating. Anyways, you don't care. Well, maybe you do care. My nose runs when I eat. But yes, just happy holidays for whatever you may be celebrating, Christmas or Yule, the solstice, anything and everything. We wish you, all the blessings, bright and dark, for anything you're celebrating. Yeah, today is a go with the flow. I'm gonna maybe just pass it off to Jen Marie. I think that many of you saw that we just kind of switched S.A.S up a bit to be kind of an invitation only. And there were a couple reasons for that. And certainly if anybody has any questions, let us know. But yeah, we're closing up another month, and we're gonna be heading into January with all of the workbooks and the videos. But now is just kind of a time for that inward turn and reflection. Thank you.
About that inward turn, everyone. Oh man, so I've been super channely this whole process of summoning Ishkatar. I did a video yesterday. I'm trying to do better at at least video journaling my experience of things and everything, but I super suck at that. I'm trying to do better. But as I am changing and implementing these different approaches, a more connective approach in my day-to-day life, it's making it to where I am aware of even deeper connections to my magic. Does that make sense? So as I am making these and most of the changes are with regards to my sensory experience, and that's a little bit mind-boggling because I never it's not that I never put two and two together with regards to magic and my sensory experience, but it has really, really, really been driven home this year. Because it really feels like, and I know that a lot of other witches are experiencing this as well. Like this last year, this last trip around the sun has been very much in revelation, like seeing and witnessing things or seeing things from a different perspective, uh, getting clarity, the veils pulled back. And this next year is feels like um it feels like the experience that I had over the last 12 months gave me the data that I needed in order to create the structures and supports that are necessary for what is coming this year, which is feels like the not the birthing of a new reality, but the acceptance of a more connected reality, right? It feels like there's that choice point that I've been talking about. Like, do we choose to navigate, you know, uh, as if the world is magic, or do we choose to navigate as if we are trapped in a mundane perspective, right? And what does that look like? So these are the things that have been like all up in my head the last, especially the last few days as I've been really, uh, the words like taking my practice more seriously don't feel quite right, right? Um, the more fully aligning with practicing what I preach, I guess, is more like what it is, but all the way, like taking it as far as I can and seeing what happens, and what's happening has been really cool. And I've been getting a lot of really cool, like channeled structures for, um, like the guild. The curriculum for the guild has been coming through, which has been really, really cool and is very exciting. That is a lot of this, like, how do we have a practice in witchcraft that is spiritually fulfilling, um, and is expansive without dogma or like the shoulds or the that kind of stuff, right? Like spicy psychology witchcraft. And the guild is shaping up to kind of be that structure for personal exploration of your magical practice and your connection to magic. And uh yeah, I've been on a whole ride in this inward turn. I think that next year I'm going to set the boundaries of my inward turn, because this year I was like, "Oh, yeah, we're all doing this, this is what we're doing." And, I think that though that is true, I think that next year I'm going to be more like from October to December, I'm gonna be kinda MIA hermit mode, because I it is my responsibility as a magical practitioner, especially in the role that I am in, to turn inward and to process all of the data that I've collected over this, like, sun cycle, and to really dig deep and see what's there and apply it to the next year and take it seriously. So I'm going to be pretty unapologetic about my hermit mode next year and actually integrate that into my practice and see what happens. Okay. But I'm going to jump off of my soapbox. That has been my experience. And I think that taking this, because today is the day before the return of the sun, kind of, right? Give or take 24 hours. Um, the last 2 days have been the, like, pause, right? Where time the sun, it's like the darkest night for the longest time, and starting tomorrow, the actual minutes of the sun exposure to our placement on the earth is gonna start to increase. And so, magically speaking, what I've experienced is that with that comes the, um that data that we've been like, "I don't know what to do next. I'm waiting for that one bit of information before I can make this decision about my whole goddamn life." That happens with the return of the sun, and it's it's pretty cool. So, today especially is like a sacred day, and I think that this, like, us meeting in more of a, like, private or pulled in, uh and being very reverent, especially, like, with today, felt really important, like, really, really important. And, this is a time where, energetically speaking, we're defining what this new reality, this new sun is gonna bring us. And as witches, we can do a lot with that. So yeah, we can talk about anything that you wanna talk about, but that's, like, kind of the nugget I've been running around with. So I'm gonna go off camera and go ta-da, and whoever wants to talk can talk.
Renee, I don't want to call you out, but I know we were talking about something on the in foundations with like scrying and stuff. I didn't know if you wanted to chat about that or wait for another time. Whatever you want.
Sure. I'll jump in. So it was a while ago, and I was with a local group, and we'd kind of touched on scrying. And when I was trying to describe my experience with scrying, it was basically I knew what didn't work for me, and also I I've done it without like a real like intention or purpose. Like sometimes I just feel like I should scry. And um so I after the local groups meet, I there's always so much good information that I have things to think about. So I was really thinking about it because I I realized I love scrying. Like I love everything about it. I love the tools for it especially. So I one thing I realized does not work for me is having like a static surface. Like if something's too perfect. So if it's just a clear, like I prefer to use a sphere or a ball. So if it's just a perfectly clear sphere, there's just nothing in there for me. And I have an obsidian mirror, and again it's too perfect, and my mind wanders, but I don't feel like I'm getting anything meaningful from it. So I went to search for my perfect scrying sphere, and I went to a local crystal shop, and that's witch owned, and I bought a really beautiful quartz, natural quartz ball that has lots of windows and lots of rainbows in it. And what I found is the best way for me to work with it is to constantly keep it in motion. So I sit down with it by a light that has makes the rainbows come out, but I constantly keep it slowly moving. And I've found that that for me like worked better than anything has ever worked in the past. I absolutely love it. And then I also kind of realized I I feel like it has one certain purpose, and I need a couple of other tools for other purposes, if that makes sense. But I'm loving it. I keep it like by my bedside. Like I move it around the house with me throughout the day now because I just love it so much and it's so beautiful. But I just thought maybe other people, if they're not having success with the way they're doing things, just change it up a little bit. And also, if you haven't thought about moving things while um like that was kind of my breakthrough. So um that's my scrying news, and I'll pass it off. So thank you for listening.
Are you open for like engagement and conversation about scrying and your
Oh,
experience with scrying?
100%. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love this stuff. This is, well, for one, like, uh, what I love is that we there's more going on to scrying than what is happening like in front of you, right?
Hmm.
So, and you know that scrying is, I guess I guess I should ask you what your definition of scrying is first before I dive into this and just like
Oh,
go off intuitively. So
no,
I'm gonna
I,
be like, go
I was
ahead and
gonna say,
what
I
is your
mean,
definition of
I
scrying?
feel like I feel like all of my view towards magic is ever evolving, and it's evolving at a super, I mean, not a pace that I can't keep up with, but I'm just so in love with having groups to engage with, and it's making me, if something doesn't work, it's making me change my thought process and making me really dive into like what so I think scrying for myself, I was surprised because I was so successful with the tools, that I found for myself that I love so much. And I feel like my scrying ball gave me a name for it, but that's kind of like my little secret thing right now. But I feel like um it's very visual for me. Interior wise, like I don't see something externally. I don't see something in the ball other than, like I said, this really has windows and little, it's like little universes inside of it. It's really, really beautiful. And so scrying for me is more of, like I said, I've had like impulses to do it. And it just feels like there is a message there. Um, and I'm not demanding an answer. I'm just kind of spending time in contemplation. I won't even call it meditation because I don't think my brain can meditate really right now at this stage of my life. But uh, I find it highly enjoyable, like everything about it. So, and I feel like it's one of those things that, um, like I feel there's no kind of negative or downside to it. Um, which is something I struggle with too, is just, like some fear of certain areas. But yeah, I love it. So I don't know if that was an answer, but that's kind of, I would love to hear what you have to say, Jen Marie.
May I poke some more? Okay, so um, when I ask, like, what is your definition of scrying? What is it that you're doing, and what is it about it that like, uh, okay, I'm gonna rephrase that because I think that that's kind of going in a direction that I don't think applies to you. Um, First of all, I want to say that what you're experience, I want to give you validation for your experience.
Oh,
What you're
thank you.
experiencing is very real. And to see a practitioner develop a deep relationship with their like allies and tools, things like that, like that I think is amazing and is a beautiful thing that happens. Where I poke is for you to have a deeper understanding of what is actually going on within you so that that like doubt is addressed, right?
Yes.
Because there's a lot of distortion when it comes to like the processes that you're actually engaging with. Um, and so asking yourself questions like, what am I actually doing? What is it about scrying that is drawing my attention? Because there's a lot of information there about your practice, your unique connection to magic. Um, there's something, if it's something that is feeding you in some way, there's more to it than what I think that you necessarily are aware of. Like it
Sure.
could be a meditation practice or a form of meditation that your system is craving, right?
Oh,
Because,
yeah, I firmly believe that. Yes. And I
yeah,
firmly believe like I've just started to dip my toes into it.
hmm,
And
right.
I do feel like when I am engaged in it, I do feel like I'm in it like a different place.
Hmm, hmm, right.
But no, I want to be challenged. I want to learn. I'm so excited for it. So um I am gonna take that all to heart, Jen Marie, and more,
Yeah.
whatever, you recommend. I'm totally willing to jump in there.
Well, I think that like the first thing that I would like do in this situation is ask those questions. Ask yourself those questions of like what need is being met, especially if you feel a pull to something like magical. Really asking those, what do I believe about
Yeah.
this? What do I believe is going on?
Yeah.
What have I been told about this? Right?
I I
Is
feel
that
like,
true? Right?
yeah, sorry, I was gonna say, like, if I had to answer those right now, I can't. Like, it is
Yeah.
something I need to really sit with
Mhm.
and kind of think about, I will say, and I think I mentioned this when I'd posted about it, as long as I can remember, when people would ask me what I wanted for a present when I was a little kid, I'd say a crystal ball. So I've always had like a strong attraction to them. But I mean more in like a Wizard of Oz way, because also when I was a little kid, I watched Wizard of Oz like on a loop pretty much. But also, I mean, that's kind of funny too, because like I wasn't really afraid of the witch. You know what I mean? Like there's John Waters, this director, and he has this great kind of Wizard of Oz quote where he says, like, why would Dorothy want to go back to Kansas where everything was black and white and boring? Like, he's like Oz is where it's at. Sorry, I'm off track there a little bit, but yes, but I will
I don't think
definitely
you are.
think about those questions. Thank you, Jen Marie. I
Yeah.
don't know,
Does
does anyone
anyone
else? Yeah.
Yeah, does anyone else have experience with scrying, or like the experience of scrying that they want to share? We got a bunch of quiet witches today. What's going on with you guys? How's that inward turn? Should I ask you again? You're allowed to be hermits if you want to just like hang out in this space. That is totally cool. Go ahead, Jenny Lee.
I don't have any experience in scrying, but I would love to learn more about it. Kind of
Oh,
like you, I've like a raven, I'm always attracted to shiny things. So shiny things intrigue me, and you can always see more than you think you can in them. So that really draws me to what you were saying. So how would one begin this journey?
can I pop in and say something real quick, Jen Marie? That is actually something that had been discussed in my local group, is also like your focus isn't necessarily on the object. You're kind of unfocusing your eyes or focusing beyond it. And
Mm-hmm.
one of my tips for art or anything like this, if you have to unfocus your eyes and you wear glasses, just take your glasses off, because that will just automatically do it for you a lot of the times. And it's not as much like I feel like when I unfocus my eyes, I have eye strain. Sorry, this is like glasses for glasses people.
Mm-hmm.
But if I just take my glasses off, I don't have the same strain and I can still get the same effect of the
Okay.
soft focus. So I'm gonna jump out real quick. Unless you have a question specifically for me, Jen Lee.
Just kind of an open, whatever, whoever wants to answer it.
Yeah. I mean, I would say just start like knocking around crystal shops and antique shops and just look for something that you just feel like attracted to. And because and I'm Jen Marie can speak to this much better than myself, but there's so many ways to scry and there's so many things to scry with. And she is very knowledgeable about that, more so than myself. So I'm gonna go on mute here.
I love scrying. As soon as I understood what it was, I realized I've been doing it from like a really young age. Like my favorite is probably cloud scrying, um, and it's literally like just looking at the shapes in the clouds and then asking your guides like what they mean to you, and like asking your system like how it like feels. And I think the hardest thing for me when scrying is staying present with the information and not like, because when my belief is that when I think that I'm predicting the future or I'm asking a question that I don't already have the answer to like internally, I'm it's a fine line between, well, this is the information that applies to that with where you're at presently, and oh, you're manifesting that. Okay, well, this is how you're going to get to what that thing that you're asking about, because that's obviously what you want. And like my it's just such a fine line, and it really matters like the intention that I'm going into it with. And so it's been a practice of like mindfulness of um I also do water scrying a lot. That's also really fun for me. I usually just do it in the bath. You can do bubble scrying. You can put like oils in, or like I also do flower scrying. Like I put raw flowers into the bathtub, and I actually bought a bowl for water scrying, and I've been building ingredients to aid in that process, because I was just looking at the bowl of water, and I was like, okay, well, this, I'm not getting anything, so I'm obviously not putting any intention or any of myself into this bowl that I just bought from a thrift store. So I gathered moon water, and I was like, okay, cool, solid. And I started messing with the lighting. Do I want the lights above me? Do I want the lights below the bowl? Do I want like a reflection, or do I want the bowl to be illuminated? And then I needed a medium. The word emollient comes to mind when you're making a product and you want to make two things that are opposed to each other mix. You need, yes, thank you, Persephone. You need to use a product in between those two in order to get them to mix. And so my idea was using blue lotus oil and dropping little drops into the bowl, because I know. She just wants to be in the conversation. She does this all the time. Come here. No one's talking to you. Hush, hush, hush.
She has tons of information. We just don't know it.
Oh my gosh, literally. She is the most magical being, and she absolutely knows what she's talking about. I am the one who is struggling with translation. And so I used the oil, like little lily pads on the water, like those little droplets, and then I use a necklace that one of my relatives gave me to swirl the water around. It's like an alignment necklace. It has like all the chakra systems like lined out like in a rainbow. And I swirl around the water, and then I watch them all like go and where they settle and the different things. And last time, intuitively, I had a candle for my light, and so intuitively I was about to put out the candle in the water, and I was like, maybe, like putting it out in the water will like be something. Like, it was just intuition. I was like following it. And before I got to the water, I stopped, and I was like, that feels wrong. Like, I don't want to drown the flame. That just feels cruel. And then a drip of wax dropped into the bowl, and I was like, oh my god, that's a whole other like level to the scrying. That's a whole other layer to like, dripping the wax in there and watching it flow and how it comes together and the patterns that it makes. It is the absolute like epitome of being an artist, to be able to create, to take information out of an abstract like thing that you're viewing. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not thinking of a word for it right now, but being able to see something like out of nothing and to create a picture out of it. I know. I'm sorry, I just really want to get through this thought. I really just want to get through this thought. I'm so sorry. The recording's gonna be so solid on this. Being able to take a picture or make a picture out of an abstract nothingness is the basis to being an artist. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
So,
Go ahead.
we'll see.
Oh, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Roxanne.
All right. Hopefully I won't fall into a coughing fit. Um, so scrying has definitely been something I've been interested in for a long time. And I've tried it with a lot of different mediums. And I know that I should be using mirrors, but because I have a fear from the past and just watching too many scary movies that deal with mirrors, it is something that I am having to work through. But I know that once I work through this fear and everything, that that is going to be the medium that I know that I'll be able to use in order to scry. Because I've tried other ones and they're just they don't align right. Um, and I feel like I'm trying to force it too much. So then I just get discouraged when I know that, okay, I need to take a step back. I know which medium that would work best for me, because it doesn't take much with mirrors for me to see anything. I actually avoid mirrors unless I have like I'm purposely using a mirror to like get ready or to check something on myself or something else, because it is very intense. So that is definitely something that I'm going to eventually get to with working on. But I just figured I'd share that. And this is a really interesting conversation. And Jen Marie, go ahead.
I was just going to brief overview of what scrying is for those who don't have a definition. Scrying, very basically, is where you get your system into like a calm and centered place through grounding, through like setting magical space, all witches have a different process of this. And you are essentially doing a form of divination by focusing your attention of your gaze like just beyond an object or just beyond a thing. You can do this with a candle flame. You can do this with like watching it snow, and it's like this movement, and you're kind of looking at it and kind of not looking at it. And depending on your giftings and how you connect to your magic, some people are going to see images in this like soft focus place. Some people are going to hear things. Some people are going to get a combination of just like knowing and all of that. Um, but the you get better at it, the more like focused you can be, right? So the like clearer your frequency, the clearer you can perceive what's going on with the scrying. So it takes a little bit of practice, but there are some of us that are really drawn to this form, and it becomes kind of a restorative practice where they're kind of tapping into having one foot in the spirit world and one foot in the physical world, and they're just kind of like anchoring their attention on this like intermediary place. Does that make sense? As like a very, very broad way. So you can use this as divination of like guides or whatever. Tell me what I need to know. You can use this as this is how I connect to the Akashic records. Is this like this portal or this like process? This can also be this is how I meditate. Is I like allow myself to kind of relax into it. The really funny and amusing thing to me, and for those of you that are going into like your second year working through foundations, those that are this is your first year, what you'll start to see is that the things that you are aligned and curious about are literally the things that we are going to be working on in the following month. You guys are a lot more tapped in than you can possibly imagine. And this is one of those things because we directly start talking about your relationship with things like divination and your intuition and making plans, all that kind of stuff. And so Kim and I have been even working on like goodies for you guys for the shop that has to do with scrying. And so I'm like, damn, I bet Kim is just laughing. I can't imagine how hard it is for her to not like tell you guys some of this stuff because we really do like keeping it a surprise until we like put it in the shop. But I think we're putting it as a special gift in I think the cachet, the new subscription box that we're doing. Yeah. So this fun little thing that we've created is going to be the cachet. Anyway, you guys are hilarious and scrying's super awesome and multifaceted. All right, Renee.
Hello. So I just wanted to chime in on a couple of things Ocean said because number one, I think it's just wild she intuitively scried with wax because that's a whole thing at wax scrying. It even has a name that's not coming to me, but I'll post about it on the forum later. But I also wanted to say, Ocean, you mentioned that um it's hard for you to kind of keep your focus on, and I was just gonna say one of my special flavors of my neurospicy is I have hyper focus. And when I was a kid, my like they called it the art trance. Like I would skip dinner, I would be so into doing whatever. I just lose all time and space. And that's why I see people knitting and crocheting, and I'm so jealous because if I tried to do that, my hyper focus would take over and I would just I would lose the thread. Anyway, I just thought that was really interesting that Ocean intuitively did the wax scrying because that's exciting. Okay, sorry, Maria.
Hello. Um, all right, I have a couple things written down. First, we don't have to do this now, but I would like to sometime take a poll of how many synchronicities people have with the Wizard of Oz and or rainbows, because I have the big syncs with both of those synchronicities, connections with both of those things, and I love that other people do too. Um, and I just wanted to mention like when we like are sharing things for me, like I love hearing your interactions with things, no matter if you've been doing it for 1 day or like 1,000 days. I like to hear like everyone's experience because that's how I learn. And so like of course like I love hearing Jen Marie's got a lot of experience, but I also like just wanted to throw out there like I love hearing everyone's experience. So if you feel called to share, like is it literally if you've only been doing it for 1 day, I like love to hear about it. And so my story with scrying is so I started, like my witchcraft journey really with Bright and Dark when Bright and Dark started. But I started a divination practice a lot longer than that. And I'd gone to this local tea room. I called it like psychic school, and I learned, a lot about a lot of different divination practice, a lot about tarot, but a lot of other things. And I thought that would be like my side gig. And when I started doing different parties and different doing tarot and readings, I kind of got like uninterested in it. And it was kind of like it actually like pinged me to explore this conversation, like actually pinged me to explore this further. Like why I became disinterested. And I know like one of the things it was like reading, and I was reading a lot for like maybe non-magical people. I know that I enjoy reading much more for magical people, but or people that are like have a magical practice, engaging in a magical practice. I think all people are magical, but that are engaging in a magical practice. And I was like, it's because I was charging for it, and I was like, no, that's not it. It was kind of because it was always like, people would ask, and, whatever divination tool I was using, whether it be the pendulum, the tarot, scrying, it was always about like work, love, money. It was always like those kinds of things. And I think I don't know, got like routine. I'm not sure. Anyhow, I just noted it for myself to like go like kind of dig into that a little bit more. In particular with the scrying, I like love that, and but kind of tied to what I was just saying, like there's something about doing, like, for me, the where I'm at with like, and I've been deconstructing my relationship with control, and I'm a very controlling person. I just am. And that was for safety reasons. I know like why I am, I know, but I like with my magical practice, it's just been like, so like I just want everything to be intuitive until actually right recently. I feel like my next year going in is about finding the balance between the two. So I'm like pumped for this shift. I'm here for it. But the last year has been about like just do things intuitively and don't like plan shit. And like, Jen Marie, like trying to be in the program, it's been hard because like they would ask to like do stuff and I'd be like, no, I don't want to do that. Like that was, but it was like just kind of figuring out like, how do I, like deepen my magical practice, but I'm also not feeling like I can't like plan anything, or I don't want to like do a reading on demand. I don't want to scry on demand. Like I look up into the sky and I read everything. Like I like anything that is I'm doing, like I'm reading it. And so that's kind of my experience with scrying. But I remember when I was in like my psychic school, like I did love doing that. And um, you know, so I love this conversation because it's kind of bringing me back to things that, I want to kind of like now dive into with where my practice is now. So it's very exciting. And thank you. And Jen Lee, I think, hold on, I'm on my phone so that people might get, yes, Jen Lee is next.
You were talking about, I think it was Jim Marie that was talking about the candle scrying in the flame. So I didn't know that was a kind of scrying, but it makes sense. My very first counselor when I was a late teenager, part of my ADHD, what he called tone down, was looking into the flame and just meditating on the flame. And I still, if there is a candle or a fire, I will immediately gravitate toward it and just stare at it. And I have found it so calming, like almost like I can connect with people, with loved ones, like I feel hugged almost within the flame. And I've always kind of felt like that, so that may be where I'm drawn toward it. But that was kind of interesting for me because I'd never thought about that. That was a coping mechanism for ADHD. It wasn't, it wasn't anything witchy that I knew of. It was just one of those weird coping mechanisms you learn when you're a kid. And since then, I've done it for my anxiety. I will just, I have a lighter with me all the time. I don't smoke anymore. I haven't smoked in 20 years, but I always have a lighter because you never know if you're going to need a lighter. But if I get really, really anxious, I will occasionally just flick the lighter and just kind of take a few minutes, and stare at it. My late husband bought me a butane lighter, and I hated it because I couldn't see the flame. I'm like, take this thing. I don't want it. I can't see the flame. It's no use to me. So it's very pretty, but thank you. But yeah, I really like that that is part of what I've always been drawn to. And Jen Marie, we've talked before about things that you don't realize go with your practice, things that you have always done or you've always been drawn to or whatever, and then suddenly it clicks and you're like, oh wait, I'm a moron and look at me, I've been witchy for my whole entire life and didn't know it. And it all makes sense now. It's all falling into place. So it's just one more of those little clicks, and I like that.
Go ahead, Maria.
Yeah, Maria.
Sorry, I never put my hand down, but a shout out to my new mug that my mom got me. She said she was in the checkout line and it was like just sitting there. And she was like, oh, that's for Maria. So I got my new chalice. That's all. Thanks. Renee.
So I was gonna say something about the mirrors, which is I also have a fear of mirrors, and I found when you talk to someone that's had a positive experience, it's really helpful to kind of uh just make you less afraid, I guess is the best way to say it. And it's really interesting because Friday and Saturday I had um tea with a couple of different friends, and one of my friends was telling me that she'd recently had this mirror experience where she was looking in the mirror and she wasn't like seeing her own face, it was changing. And I told her I just recently read something where that scrying with a candle in a mirror, it's not uncommon for people to see their face changing or different facial features, and a lot of people believe that you're seeing yourself in your past lives that way. And then the other thing I was going to say is Maria. It's so funny because I was talking to one of my friends yesterday who she's working with her like control issues, and we were talking about hypnotism and how she cannot be hypnotized because she cannot like relinquish control to someone else. And I'm like a no deities chaos witch, and I'm the opposite. Like if I'm watching someone get hypnotized on TV, I'll start to get hypnotized. And so my kind of approach to that is I'm just kind of like fly by the seat of my pants, like, oh, let's see where this is going, you know. But it was just interesting because it just that is kind of a synchronicity. That was like a huge topic of our conversation yesterday. And very last before I go, I just want to say I I've mentioned I'm very enthusiastic about this, and I just kind of plunk out my thoughts a little bit on the team's general page. And is that okay? Like, is that what it's for? Um because I'll do it every day. You know, if that's okay. Because yes, I just love exploring things, and I would love responses from people and hearing their experience as well. So I'm gonna pass it off to Kat.
So I have a brief weigh-in, and then I'm going to pass it off to Jen Marie. But then after that, I want to take a side quest because I can see you're totally itching to do this weigh-in. But yeah, my weigh-in is that I'm definitely feeling that all come together, like somebody mentioned, like those things that I've been doing my whole life, those feathers, those dirts, those rocks, the minerals, the energy, everything that's been popping in and out of my life is like it's big. I got the bumper sticker says you've had the magic all along, my dear. And so I plop that on my car, and that's my reminder every day that yeah, it's been there. I just choosing to be more active in its usage. And Jen Marie, and then I would like to pop back in with that side quest.
I love what's happening in the chat, by the way. And like this whole um
One of the things that I'm getting on repeat is to remind y'all that reality isn't as fixed as we have been made to believe that it is. And that as magical practitioners, as any people really, like anyone really, but magical practitioners or mystics or witches tend to be more aware of the unseen world. Like it is more real to us than a lot of people. And we, which reality we choose to participate in matters. And how we choose to participate in our life, our day-to-day matters. It does. The subtle little decisions that we make on uh, how we again participate in life is important. And the work that we're doing here in bringing our awareness to our autopilot, right? Of like, why am I just doing this? Why am I accepting this as a reality that is fixed? Is really, 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 really important. And with the mirror scrying and the mirror work, totally relate to the fear thing. When I was a kid, I couldn't even look at a window if it was dark outside because I would immediately like see things. And I was a blind kid, keep that in mind. Like I was legally blind. I couldn't really see anyway, but what I did see terrified me. And a lot of that was because that I didn't have anyone that I felt like I could talk to about what I was experiencing. And just because we witness or we can perceive uh, something doesn't mean that the lens that we are applying to that perception is true and real. Does that make sense? Or it's real to us, but is it true? Right? Some things in the spirit world we've been trained to fear, right? If it looks like this, it's demonic, right? If it's scary looking, it's a bad thing. Um, and so when we perceive the spirit world and we see some of that stuff, we're like, "Ah, it's gonna get me, right? And it's the belief that it's gonna get me that paves the way for that shit anyway. And that's why that like deconstruction and asking yourself those questions is really important before you engage in things that you don't understand. Understand it, right? Uh, and when you engage with things, it's really important to engage at a neutral place. If there's fear, right? Disengage, look at the fear, process the fear, then re-engage, right? Because it influences things. And I don't mean that to like incite fear that you're doing something dangerous. What I'm saying is that what you believe matters in how you perceive the spirit world and like our role in that. So if you can't sleep with a mirror in your room, like asking yourself that question of why can't I? What am I afraid of happening? And how can I, as a witch, support myself as I process through this fear? And sometimes that can be, all right, I need to put a ward on my mirror in my bedroom because I'm uncomfortable, and putting a word on there makes me feel more settled, right? And more neutral. Then you do that. That's your magical practice can support you until you have changed your relationship with whatever it is, right? Okay, jumping off the soapbox. And I'm turning it back over to Kat, and I'm super proud of myself for remembering that I needed to do that. So, gold star. It's a new beginning, guys. Just
I'm
wait for it,
excited
man.
too. So I had this dream I had to share with all of you. It was really, really cool. I was at a place, and I think it was some kind of fair, and there were all different things going around, and I was milling about the place all by myself, just doing whatever it was that I was doing, and I was just there for a great deal of time doing stuff by myself. And then I went over to this tent, and there you all were. You were all in this tent, and you were asking me questions about how I was doing and how things were coming along, and you were so engaging in, and I felt all of your energies. And at that moment, I was reminded that no matter how long I'm away, I am always connected to all of you. and your energies are there for me and with me at all times. And that was a comforting thought. And then I felt so many of your energies so point on, like I could just like, I was like, that is Jen. That's Jen's energy I'm feeling. And to be able to just recognize that energy from that distance was so exciting for me. I was like, ooh. And I'm like, I have to share that. Thank you.
I think I'm next. Let me
You are
see.
next. I'm sorry. Yes, Maria.
Thank you. Um, I wanted to just comment too, like on the scary movie thing, because that's a like resonates with me a lot. I like all the way from Jaws to like, Freddy, Jason, all those like movies. There was one, yeah, about the mirror. Like, so and because part of what I'm um part of what I'm engaging with is like I intellectualize everything. And I think a lot of us have been talking about that, is like I've been not connecting with my body, but because like the one of the ways we process, I work on my shadow work, is like processing of those emotions through my body. And so what has helped me is like I have that fear. So let me just take the movie Jaws. Like when I go into the water, think Jaws is going to get me, like, but I no matter what. And so my body has responded appropriately. Like my brain is always with me, and my body, that fear, all the things that are getting hormones and all that's getting released. So it's like when I do, how that affects me in like magical workings is like intellectually, I'm not afraid of any being. Intellectually, I know that I'm not. My body will though react in fear to certain things still. Um, like a scary movie, or yeah, and mirrors is definitely one for me too. Um, so much so, like I made sure my makeup mirror was not facing my bed, and there's other reasons for that too, but like stuff like that. And so it's kind of like for me, when I get that like fear response, and because I have like trauma history too, like I can get that feeling of panic for like anytime, but it's just like, oh, okay. And then like as we progress along and like the shadow work and really practicing like feeling the feelings and letting my body feel it, and then like letting it release and like letting it go, has helped me with like the scary movie aspect, because like I recognize that my body is like just what I'm feeling. I recognize what I'm feeling and why I'm feeling it, and it's just helped me to my brain and my body to like set that a little bit about like what I react in fear like too. So that's been an interesting process, but also to like yeah, it's just so interesting, the connections that we share, whether on any different topic. Let me see. I'm going to pass it to Jen Marie next.
Lowering my hand, unmuting myself. Trust the process. Oh, I love that you brought up that scary movies come up. Oh my God, this is so tidy. I've recently had a conversation with my partner about this because I'm going through this whole journey of preparing my system to do a lot more and deeper magic. And so exposing my system to horrific things through like movies and like super stressful car chases and all that kind of stuff. Uh, I can't do that anymore. Like I can't do it. And I had to tell my partner that like I can't sit here and watch, Transformers or, like Indiana Jones. I tried to watch Indiana Jones the other day and I'm like, "Oh my God, we're like not 5 minutes into this show and I'm so fucking stressed out. Like my whole body's engaged with what's going on." And I'm like,
Like that's a big sensory exposure. That's a lot of adrenaline and shit that my body's got to process for no good reason. Like I don't need that shit to entertain myself anymore. My relationship with like entertainment is it's shifting, and my exposing my brain to scary images and these like, you know, it's gonna get you stuff affects my magic, and I don't like I'm prioritizing my magic at this point. It's not worth it to me to watch Indiana Jones and have to like, deal with my body's processing all those fucking stress hormones. I'm more aware of those processes now. So it's like, ah. Um, but yeah, it's interesting, huh? Ocean. Ocean.
Hi. Um, I love both of these subjects because there's three things that I want to talk about. So the first was mirrors, and as somebody who has partaken in hallucinogenics, there's a rule in like that people tend to pass on to each other. You don't look in the mirror. Whatever you do while you're hallucinating, you don't look in the mirror. And um, so the first time I ever did anything like that, I looked in the mirror first thing. Like that was like the first thing I did was like, all right, we're going straight to the mirror. Like what's so scary about it? And the way that um, certain hallucinogenics amplify your experience of yourself, including how you feel about yourself, I can understand why looking in the mirror would be really difficult for some people. Like and it wasn't like super easy for me, but I was just fascinated. Like I looked a little bit weird and stuff, and I could like see more of myself, like just physically. Like I could see like my veins and stuff because I'm super pale, and when your pupils dilate, more light comes in, you're able to like see a little bit more, but really that stuff's already there. And so the whole mirror thing has always been kind of a fascination for me, especially since that experience. And the it also ties into horror because when I started trying to watch scary things, my parents were very sheltering when I was a kid, and I wasn't allowed to watch horror movies. Like the scariest thing I saw was probably like Harry Potter, and that's, for a kid that's like a little bit scary. Like that troll really fucked me up in the first movie. But the the first real experience I had with horror was actually Supernatural, and I know a lot of us really like that show. And the way that I can look back, and because I had a memory at that point, I was like a teenager and I was able to like create memories at that point. I saw myself transition from a world where the nighttime was magical and wondrous and actually feeling safer in the dark, to oh no, there could be something out there, was like really scary and like really solidified like a lot of my tendencies to like keep away from like the darkness or like something that felt bad, or like created a lot of resistances to darkness in general. And that ties into there was a third thing um, that ties into the, well, okay, I don't remember how it beautifully ties over. It totally did, but the 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 monster that I'm perceiving in my brain ever since experiencing horror movies is, because I have a really hard time with it too, Jen Marie. Like I have a really hard time with my sensory experience when there's something intense happening. Excuse me. On the screen, or like something scary. And it's because your brain really doesn't know the difference. But for some people, it fulfills that cycle of trauma. And so it's when I started doing the emotional regulation exercise that we do with like opening up our system and letting the drawing attention to the feeling signature and letting it go out and then experiencing reality, like what's the reality of the situation. I applied that very directly in a situation where I was in the literal dark. And I've talked about this a couple of times, but I'll just try to share the short version. But when we were at the convergence, I wanted to spend some time with the full moon on Saturday morning, like super early in the morning. And so I woke up. It was like maybe like 4 a.m. and I was outside and I was enjoying it. I was gonna have a little smoke and like just like hang out with the moon. And then it occurred to me, I am in the dark alone in the woods. Like that thought just occurred to me, and I was like, oh, I am in the dark alone in the woods. That's a little bit scary. And my mind started picturing like a wolf or like a wolfman cryptid or something like in the woods, like just watching me and telling the story. Like it every time I tell it, I hear how ridiculous it sounds, but in the moment that felt so real. I was like, I am so important that this random wolf has just been waiting for me to come out of the door. And what I did was at first I said, I'm not going to let myself go back inside until I'm not scared anymore. And then I convinced myself that I wasn't scared anymore. And I even like went through the motions of feeling it, but I was still scared. Like I wasn't like allowing myself to be scared. I was still resistant to it, even though I was like, I'm feeling it and I'm getting rid of it and we're releasing it and we're fine now. And so I was like, okay, now that I'm calm, or now that I had convinced myself I was calm, we're going back inside. And I walked slowly to the door, and when I put my hand on the door handle, I felt my whole body like jolt. I was like, oh, I can feel it. I'm feeling the fear. It's like overpowering. And I remember as a kid feeling that same feeling and needing to physically run. Like if I was in the dark somewhere, I needed to run back to like inside the house or whatever, like if I felt that same feeling. And so I just stood there holding the door handle, and I was like, that's it. That's the monster. I'm going to let it get me. And so while I was picturing that story in my mind's eye, I let the story play out instead of resisting the story, and was like, okay, I'm going to let it get me. What's the worst that can happen? I don't believe there's anything there. Like, I am trusting my belief that I don't actually believe that there's anything there. This is a story I'm telling myself to scare myself. And I let it get me and I let it wash over me, and then I felt fine and I went back upstairs. I didn't really have the spiritual revelation of like how meaningful that moment was until like later. And I was telling that story and I was like, you know, I think I'm gonna name my shadow. I think that's my shadow name is Wolf. Like it like felt so right. And I think it's especially with the mirror work, I think it is the things because our minds wouldn't latch onto that imagery if it wasn't something that we could learn something from, like the feeling signature of, unless of course you're just subjecting yourself over and over to your own like trauma trigger. But like if you're experiencing that fear like in that present moment, it's for your expansion. Like it really is. And the way that we integrate that is really cool. And I feel like I got up on my own soapbox over here. But thanks for letting me go on. Go ahead, Jen Lee.
Okay, now take my hand down. Okay, so I have kind of the opposite relationship with movies. I have always, because there's so much going on in my brain all the time, if I can get immersed in a movie in the dark, I can finally concentrate on the one thing. I can be completely present in that situation, whatever it is. The more action, the more explosions, the more walking down the dark staircase or whatever it is, I can be right there. And to me, that is freeing from my regular brain. So I don't know if it's just the way I perceive it. It gives me a break. But like being in the dark, Ocean was saying you manifested a story and tried to bring it to life. I like to sit in the dark because there is no story there unless I put it there. The dark is my safe space. Ever since I was little, I would go in the closet. I would crawl under the bed where it's darker. I would, whatever. And even now, when I am extremely anxious or depressed or whatever the case may be, I will find the dark. I will find pleasure and security and release sitting in the dark with myself and nothing else. So I wish I could give that to you. I wish I could give that feeling of safety. Jim Marie is going to jump out of the screen in a minute. I wish I could. That's what I want. I want to be able to give that feeling I get from the dark, because being underwater, Ocean, being underwater is a similar feeling for me. The sounds that my brain no longer hears because I'm under the water, it's very much the same thing for me in the dark. So I'll let Jim Marie go.
That was so tidy because I raised my hand before you said that. And so this right here, what we just experienced of having contrasting perspectives on a similar experience, right? There's some of us that can super relate to what, was said before of like the dark is a scary thing. My body engages with it as if it is an enemy, and it uses it as, somewhere to create my fears, right? The things that are scary I find in the darkness. And then you have another witch that's like, I find the darkness a peaceful place of like infinite possibilities, like essentially like the quiet space that I am safe and comforted. And this is why I love S.A.S so much, guys, because we get the opportunity to do what Renee is talking about in the chat by engaging our like mirror neurons and allowing our systems to actually experience what Jen Lee is talking about through them explaining it to us. So if you never personally experienced what it's like, Jen Lee can explain it, and you can remove any resistance you have to actually experiencing that with them, right? By just taking that deep breath and then just relaxing and then just paying close attention to Jen Lee as she's describing this experience of, I find peace in the darkness. It's like a seed in the earth. It's like being held by the ocean, right? And letting ourselves experience that, because the darkness can be both things, right? Depending on our internal experience, right? It can be a canvas to create realities, but as a magician, you get to choose what reality you create in the darkness. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, I'm going to jump off of this, right? And Ocean, like what? So I spent a whole year looking at my relationship with fear. And so anything that got me all like hot and bothered, I was like diving face first into it, right? To figure out what is your name, right? And so that's what I was kind of like, next year, I hope you ask it its name, when you perceive it in the darkness, instead of immediately perceiving it as a dangerous threat. Scary, yes, but just because you experienced a presence doesn't mean it's all in your head, and it doesn't mean that it's exactly the presence that you think that it is. It's your interpretation of what that presence is. Anyway, I love you. Bye. Renee. Oh wait, no, Ocean. Ocean.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes. Yes to all of that, to both of you. And also, I was gonna say something similar to what Jen was gonna say. Back to you, Jen Lee, is that like it definitely depends on context for me. Like certain contexts feel safer in the dark, and certain contexts don't. Like being outside felt less safe than being like inside in the dark, and it was also like a different space. But like being in like the water, like down like deep in like the dark, like that is like a super safe space for me. um when I go to sleep, I can't have any lights on in the house. I need to be like in sensory like complete rest. um and then also, um that makes so much sense, Jean Marie, because when you were saying that, what occurred to me is that we did a lot of nature connection, and I had been connecting with the river. I couldn't stay away from the river, and like I had to keep it in view almost the entire time I was there. I couldn't go inside and just sit down. I was like, why would I sit down inside when I could sit next to the river? And so it occurs to me, like, what if I was just feeling their presence? And especially at night, since a lot of spiritual energy is amplified, that makes a lot of sense to me, especially with the full moon, which is what I came out there to connect with. So I really appreciate the perspective that you guys give me. Thank you. Go ahead, Renee.
So I wanted to say, this might be like off on a little bunny trail, but I'm wondering if anyone has experienced like a hereditary aspect to certain things, because in my family, I didn't know my dad was terrified of the dark. I'm still, I would say, on the verge of nyctophobia. Like I'm terrified of the dark. Both of my nephews, and it's like you don't want them to know, because you don't want to accidentally influence them to be afraid of anything. But my nephews are both terrified of the dark. And they're grown men, you know. One, when he was a baby, for instead of giving him a teddy bear, I gave him a stuffed ghost so he wouldn't be afraid of ghosts, like if he grew up with a ghost toy. But there's a few other things, and I won't get too deep into it right now because I know I'm kind of changing the subject, but that with my nephews and I, well, I'll just mention one, and that's like clairaudience. Like I describe it as when I'm in certain states of mind or I'm about to fall asleep, it's like someone's like tuning a radio and they're just going through stations, and I just hear clips of conversations. People even talking in different languages, just totally random things. But then at certain times, like Connor and I have both talked about how um like one time I had someone shout, "Hey," like in my ear. And Connor was telling me one time he was trying to take a nap and he was kind of like upset. There was like someone outside making a lot of noise, and someone like in his ear went like, "I know what you're thinking. You better, you know, straighten up," or something. So but it is just kind of interesting to me, and I wonder if there is something to like a hereditary aspect of certain uh like kind of magical things like that. I just think it's interesting. But the thing with the dark in my family is like a real thing. And the other thing that's kind of weird about that is I am from the woods. I'm from the forest. Like I grew up in Fairbanks, Alaska, in the woods, like an hour from nowhere. And I'm not afraid of the woods at all. Like, and I'm not as afraid of, like, if there's moonlight, I'm not afraid to be, I'm more afraid of like interior darkness, like being confined with darkness in a house. Anyway, that's, I mean, there's no real point to what I'm saying, other than if anybody else has any insight into that, and I'll pass it off to Maria.
Hello. So I think there is. I I thought like when you said that, like what I heard was like nature versus nurture. So I do think like it's both because there's some things that there's some things like I do that my mother does that when it happens, I literally say fuck out loud because I was like, as a child, I'm like, I'm never gonna do that. And then like here we are. But I think some of that is the nurture, or just like the stuff I picked up before I even like was aware. But yes, it's interesting because my experience is my mom's a triplet, and I have like a special connection to each of the three, and like the yes, so I do see like hereditary kind of things, especially with the three of them. Um, and but I do, but it's interesting because I think sometimes it's hard if you when you are like sharing space with someone, sometimes you're like, is it like nature or nurture? But I feel like it's definitely like a combo. But yes, to your question, Renee, I do think there's a hereditary um component to it, even from even from ancestry lines that go way back. I feel that definitely yes. Back, hold on a second. And Verity's next. Then back to you, Renee.
Okay. All right. So, Maria, I'm along the same lines. I absolutely believe that um that if you can if alcoholism can run through a family, cancer can run through a family, those things can run through a family. Why not spiritual gifting, fears? I mean, we imprint it on our DNA as we live and we move forward, and it can be passed. Now, obviously, it takes two people to make a child, and you may have a cousin who favors the non blood relative or what have you, but it doesn't mean that it can't skip a generation or move forward. So when it comes to that stuff, I mean, it's the nature versus nurture, but I believe some of this stuff is just imprinted, and whether it comes out or becomes part of who we are, that's maybe just our path or our journey. But I believe it's there and it can be tapped into, especially if it's good. All done. Bye byes. Who's next?
Back to Renee.
Oh, I was gonna say I know people in my family have prophetic dreams. My uncle does, my mom does, I do. Just as a quick example, one morning I went in my mom's bedroom and she was making her bed, and she's like, "Oh, I had the weirdest dream. I was in Windsor Castle and it was on fire. And my cousin Edmund, who she doesn't exist, he and I were trying to rescue these children from the choir and get them outside. And there was smoke and the castle was on fire. And we turned the TV on a half hour later and Windsor Castle was on fire." Like that kind of stuff happens in my family so frequently that I mean, it's not like to us, it's almost not even worth mentioning. So I definitely feel like that happens. But also, so my mom is very Christian. Like she is very down on you guys know what I'm talking about. But my mom and I will have we don't have the same dreams on the same night, but we'll dream about the same thing on the same night. And we also get visits from my father, who was a very like grumpy old construction man, like he had no spiritual life whatsoever. But I have had visits from him, and when I get one, my mom usually gets one the same night, and they're usually him talking about the same thing to both of us. So it's pretty interesting. So I do know there's a bit of that in my family, and I don't know what it means. And also, no one in my family, I mean, they would not attribute it to, like, I'll say my mom attributes it to, Christianity, and she has people in her church that are telling her like that all of her dreams are prophetic and have meaning, and I don't believe that. If I feel like if I knew, it's always in hindsight, right? Like sometimes you'll have a prophetic dream. Like I dreamt my neighbor, this is sorry everybody, accidentally ran over their kitten and killed it. And that happened like the same night. So here's the thing: if you have a gift but you have no idea how to use it and the information is no good to you unless it's in hindsight, like I almost don't see it as a gift. Like I see it almost like a curse, because I I don't get the information in time to do anything with it. It's usually not something good, I'll just say that. So I've struggled with that my whole life, and that is part of the reason I have put off engaging with anything magical. since I was like a teenager, but I will also say this, and this is a huge topic for another time too. Like, I made mistakes when I was a teenager, you know, I did stupid things. I was all on my own. And I say I don't do spells because every time I did one, it worked. And I did like a love spell. I did irresponsible things, you know? Um, and so I do have like have had bad experiences, have fears, and that is part of the reason I'm ready to do the shadow work and learn and be responsible and hopefully help other people. And I'll jump off now.
Thanks, Renee. Um,
I'm sorry, I silver.
it's okay.
Okay.
Ezra, go for it.
Let's see. Oh, my video isn't working. Can you hear me? Okay. Completely forgot I raised my hand. So, but I love the conversation. And I am definitely one of those people that enjoys the dark. Like, it's so funny because my grandma literally like had extra lights installed in the house on like that we live in now, and like her side of the house is just like white. It is just like there's almost no shadows whatsoever, and I can only spend like a little bit of time out there before it becomes like a sensory overload. But the moment you turn out the light, she freaks out. So it's one of those things that it kind of rebounded a little bit, genetically speaking, I think. And I think that tends to happen. Either you go this pretty much the exact same way, or you go in the other direction from people in your family. But let's see. Yeah. I don't really have a whole lot to say because again, I forgot what I raised my hand for. But hi everyone, and I am glad that I caught you guys because I just woke up. So because I'm also a night person. But I love the conversation and thanks for listening to me say not much.
Thank you, Ezra. I think that I'm next. Let me check. Oh, I hit the chat instead of the people. I wrote down something from before that I forgot to say. Renee, when you're talking about like maybe what gets passed down or ancestry, I also feel that things too like can be get passed down, but sometimes people may not connect it because just the way their system works with the gifting could look different too. And I also think that's interesting. I also believe that like I do really think that generally most people have all like the clairs and things like that. It's just like some are more like prevalent for you. I also think you can like learn. I also think you can like practice and learn different things too. So I don't think anything's really off limits for anyone. It's just like your choice about what you choose to engage in. That's my feeling on it. But I do think some things, just like anything else for different humans, like certain things just kind of come easier, but and other things you kind of work out a little bit or a lot. What you said about gifting or a curse, um, and I think that's very interesting too. From my experience, are you okay with me weighing in on that? Is that all right, Renee? Because I wanted, yeah, thank you. So I feel with that discussion, it is what you believe it is, right? If you believe something is a gifting or a blessing, then it is. And if you believe it's a curse, then it is. So it's like kind of, that's where I think like doing belief work and getting into that is like very interesting, you know, because it is what you believe it is, but it's all interesting data, like what you're experiencing and what you're experiencing. It would be interesting if you like, if you wanted to, you know, like, why do I have that? Like, you know, why do I have this if I don't get the information till it's too late or after the fact? And that's a great question, you know, but so it's like taking, if you wanted to, like taking data and just seeing, you know, kind of what was happening and just writing it down. And sometimes going back and rereading things, you can kind of then like maybe connect other dots or have like an aha moment. But it's happening, so I think it's for something, you know. And really it's like that's your adventure, you know, and whether you choose to like dig into it or not, and it's totally like your choice. um but I can understand too, it's frustrating, like having information that we feel may like help people. I get this like lesson from the tarot a lot, and this is just my own personal thing. Some things we do have like need to experience, and there's just some information we're not supposed to have. And maybe that's part of it, I don't know, but the tarot like always reminds me, because sometimes when I've been in distress and like believe me, like pulled out the cards and they're like, we're not giving you information on that, and I'm like, fine. Thanks a lot, you know. Because it was just something, you know, like I'd get lovely messages like you're supported, you know, like you got this, but I wasn't getting like, tell me why is this happening or what's going to happen. um so that's just like an interesting process, and just feeling kind of that out. And then like, you know, you being here at this time and having the community to like talk to, I think is, you know, about whatever you feel called to, I think is great. um yeah, I think that was it that I wrote down. Thank you, Jen Marie.
This is a fascinating topic. It's like one of my special interests is this like, and very much recently, like this year, the like ancestral connection to like our giftings and like what's that all about, like cycle breaker stuff. But and the other interesting thing is Kim and I were just kind of talking about this morning. Was like with my sister and I. Those of you who have been around a while have met Maggie. Maggie is our risk management and overall like business manager at the resource center because she's freaking brilliant. She's Christian. She's very like devout in the way that she believes, and her and I have very similar giftings, but she uses them in a different way than I do. Right? That's the other thing with this like ancestral family stuff, is that it's like we, all of my siblings are like given similar um a similar spirit to work with, and we get to decide what we do with that. Right? And all of our giftings are dialed in a little bit different way, but there's this like underlying tone of our ancestral like medicine that we each are doing our own thing with, or we're doing our own thing with. But like our giftings, our connection to magic exists regardless of the belief structure that we navigate our lives under. Does that make sense? So like a like Christian perspective of the things and the things that we are aware of is different. It's a different lens. Just like it's a different lens in all of these other ways. Like um and a lot of us are kind of defining that on our own, because it's not like we have our grandparents or parents to teach us about our connection to magic and blah blah blah, right? So we're kind of putting this together for on our own, essentially, but more we're putting this together because we are needing to turn so far inward that we're actually connecting with that ancestral line and asking, like,
what the fuck am I supposed to do with this, like, gifting of, prophetic dreams, or whatever that ends up unfolding like to be. So this is one of the reasons why I keep turning everyone's attention. Go back in, go in, look deeper, ask yourself questions, ask that gifting questions. What Maria just said, collect data about it. This is where a lot of like grimoire, book of shadows, people like get it wrong, is that your grimoire, your book of shadows, your journal is your data collection of your lived experience and your magical practice, the things that you're working on, um the spells you've worked on, your experiences with the different energies of the different seasons and that kind of stuff. Your book of shadows or grimoire is for you. It's for you to be like, "Oh, last year I experienced the same thing. Oh, I had a prophetic dream on this night, but 3 days before that, I craved strawberries." And that seems to happen like 3 days before every time I have a prophetic dream, right? In starting to ask yourself questions about your giftings and collecting the data about when you're experiencing it, like looking at it through the lens of a scientist instead of this like, oh, this is super taboo and I'm not allowed to talk about it or really like dive into it, or this is scary, right? Ask it questions and then like settle it and see what it makes sense to you, how it makes sense to you. Anyway, you guys are going to give you the interpretation of it. Go ahead, Maria.
It makes me think, and I forget what movie it was, but it's where Oprah plays Mrs. Witch, and there's this quote, and she says, I'm going to paraphrase it, but all of the things like across all of time that had to occur for us to be here exactly as we are right now. And like you are here to do the thing the way you're going to do it. And so like for me, there is no the way. As much as I love the Mandalorian, like this is the way. There is no way. It is like, I believe we're just here to share these experiences, to get information and knowledge, but for you to then do with it your thing, not to, there's just a lot out there of people saying like, this is the way to do something. And we talk about, of course, if you're following a tradition, if you're initiating under something, there are certain rules and things to follow. And I'm not talking about that, just those that are kind of connecting to your magic. This is just what I like really feel in my bones, in my soul, that you're here to like take it in and then confidently go and do you, really like do the thing and do it your way. And however you are going to interact with your giftings and things like that. I mean, there's something just to be said about using discernment when you're learning a new thing, or if you're interacting with any other entities, including humans. They're just kind of, there's is something to be said about discernment, but do the thing. You're your own, I don't like the word master, like you're the master of your own universe, but you're here. The way that you do it is perfect in whatever way that is. And it's okay if that evolves over time as well with more information. Like that's kind of like the journey, right? And I know it's funny because to what you were saying, Renee, just about like the connection to religion. My dad was a born again Christian, and he passed away a couple of years ago. My experience as a witch would be different if he was alive, because he's a born again Christian. And I often think about that. But when I'm doing things now, like sometimes I'll like say to him, like, well, what do you think about that? And kind of laugh, like, because I know his experience, whatever he's experiencing and where he is now, I know just that connection with him. So it's all like really interesting in how that unfolds. So anyways, that's all. Thanks.
I just got this like feeling that I needed to clarify that Maggie, my sister, though she is Christian and devout in that, she is super supportive of what we do and 100 million% behind the medicine that we're bringing to the world and the work that we're doing at the Resource Center. So uh, that is, and it's an important thing. Like, she was so funny when we brought her to Salem last year. She was our like token Christian the whole weekend. She's just freaking hilarious. Maggie's hilarious. But yeah, so no torches coming, no pitchforks. She might like maybe as a funny thing, but she's yeah, there's no like, someone all up in our shit that's not supportive of us just because she's my sister. Anyway, basically, like, we in our family recognize the like the spirit of our family and the medicine that we bring, and we respect each other's way that we're bringing that, right? uh and my sisters are really cute about, because they're both Christian, and they're really cute about like accepting their witchy sister. Like, this has been a new thing over the last like 5 years. It's been great. So, and you guys have all like, well, a lot of you have witnessed this, but yeah. So it's possible to have like very devout uh people in two very different like structures of faith collaborate on a beautiful thing. Anyway, jumping off the soapbox. We're actually considering going live together, Maggie and I. Uh, that's gonna be fun.
I can verify that Maggie is witchy adjacent. We went to Salem and she was all up in it. She was all, it was great. And your relationship, like, Maggie has like the business mind, which is like needed. And so even though it like clashes, it's also like two parts of what's needed.
Go ahead, Renee. You can just jump on. If nobody's like talking and nobody's hands are up, you guys can just like ta-da. Listen to me, witches. You're allowed to do that. I mean, that's what I do.
I just wanted to say how much I appreciate everything everyone has said today, and I am really taking it to heart. And I feel like I'm learning so much, I'm going to learn so much, and that I have just more tools in the tool bag as far as uh well, and also just like, instead of being afraid to make a mistake, just feeling like I have a resource and I have people that, have experience and have advice, and good advice, like advice I respect and I want to use. And everyone's perspective is so interesting and there's so many good ideas. So I just thank you everybody. Thank you. Um this has been great. I feel like I've monopolized the conversation a lot, but thank you. And I'm going to mute myself.
You see us laughing because like that's something that almost everyone says when they come into a S.A.S and do this. We love it. You're not monopolizing anyone's time. We're literally here for this.
I forgot to unmute. I don't. I'm like, I'm here for it. Well, I'm going to say as much as I have to say, and you can listen because you're my captive audience. Speaking of which, I'm gonna need some support in the next like month or so, probably. I'm getting some changes, and I'm trying to lean into those changes, and I'm trying to not
persuade myself that it's going to be a bad thing or a good thing or whatever. But work is changing their hours, and I'm not looking forward to this change at all. We're going from a 6-day to a 7-day, and we're going to be alternating 40 and 30-hour weeks, which is draining. I don't think I'm going to be looking forward to 10-hour days at the job that I currently do. It's kind of hard to do 8. So to pack 40 hours into 4 days is just kind of, it's a lot. And they had choices. So you can either do Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or you can do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And unfortunately, I have to choose the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because Saturdays just don't work for me at all. Getting off at 5:30 on a Saturday when I have things I have to do at 5:30 on Saturdays, it's not going to be an option. So that was my first choice. And then the second choice, I picked part-time. I don't want to go part-time again, but who knows? Maybe it's the best thing for me. So I'm not trying to influence that in any way. I'm not trying to be like, oh, this is what I want. I'm just going to be like, whatever is best for me and my path, like, can we make that happen kind of vibe. But I don't like any of the changes that are coming up. I don't like any of my options. I'm like, I'm going to have to give up S.A.S and just listen for like until I retire. That would suck. I don't think I could do that. But I think that's why I had that weird dream the other day that said, even if I'm not able to be here, you're still all going to be with me no matter. So I think that's probably one of the reasons I had that dream. But yeah, just some support would be really nice. I love all of you. Thank you. And who's next? Oh, Jen Lee.
Congratulations, Kat, on your new adventure. So we will all hold space for you. And as this takes place, I just wanted to introduce you guys to my new companion. This is Crowley. I got him from one of the catteries we used to work with at my old practice. And you can't really see, but he is without one of his eyes. And so he could not go to the pet store. So he went to my house instead. He was kind of a going away gift from the gentleman that owns the cattery, because I rehomed, I think, 15 of his either retired cats or kittens that weren't perfect. So we found good homes for them. And he had given me Butterscotch, who is my primary. But this guy, he didn't know how to be a kitty. He didn't know. And he's just now, we've had him about 7 months, and he's just now really starting to come out of his shell. And I just kind of left him alone to kind of find his way. And we moved in that time. And so he had a lot going on. But he has definitely picked me as his person. Yeah. But he's very cute. He's a panda Himalayan, and he's very handsome. And he does not meow until he's hungry, and then he screams like a banshee. So other than that, I didn't have anything else. I've talked a lot today, but I did want to make sure he got some screen time because he's a special boy.
This is a great task, everybody. I was expecting it to be like less people. I don't know why, because like the holiday, right? But yeah, hi. I love that everybody showed up. Before we close for the day, I'm trying to get better at letting you guys know like what's going on and stuff. And I'm doing a workshop this month on the 14th, I believe it is. A lot of you guys have been asking me about like how do I incorporate my magical practice into my like everyday lived experience. And so we're gonna do a whole workshop on that. And
I'm really excited to dive into this. With all the workshops that I do, it's interactive and conversational. And we will actually, by the end of the workshop, have some kind of outline of a practice for you to do that, to bring your magic into your everyday lived experience. So that is up on the website, and you guys can join up. You can join up for that. I'm also going to be starting to go live on social media platforms here very soon on a regular basis. I am not a timelined individual, so there isn't a set time that I'm going to be going live, but the intention is to start our days, set intentions like a magical practitioner and living your days like on purpose. So grounding and centering, quick 30-minute thing. And we'll let you guys know when that actually starts happening. So I think that's it. There's also the workshop for all of you. I know there's so many of you guys that are doing like social media stuff, but so many requests on video editing and that kind of stuff. And Acacia, our tech witch at the Resource Center, is going to do a workshop on that. And I believe that that's posted as well. So 2 hours of being able to dive into like how to edit videos and how to do that stuff. So yeah, I think that's it. I'm going to be spending the rest of my day finishing the preparations for the summoning Ishkatar, and then all day long tomorrow diving into that. I love you guys. I think that you're amazing. You add so much to my life and practice, and thank you to everyone who kind of was patient during my hermit mode the last few months. I'm very much coming out of that. Like very much coming out of that. And I'm super excited to share that with you guys. So I love you guys. May your practice be expansive and filled with many blessings, bright and dark. Bye. That was fancy. Bye.